I wanted to redo this video because I thought the first one wasn't very good. It was a bit. It was only 6 minutes long, and it was rather vague. And well, listening back to it, I thought, well, I could talk about more than I have done. So that's about work. And sorry if this video is like flashing, the lights flashing to you. I don't know what's causing that. Uh, Again, the room is filled with light. The camera's on, obviously. Um, so I don't know what's going on. But yeah, I want to talk about work, physical work, work of the hands, manual labour, and how I think there are a couple of points just to make this video a bit more concise than the other one. There are a couple of points I want to raise. One, I think too many, especially young people, aren't accustomed to work as they should be. They aren't accustomed to manual labour, to doing things with their hands and backs. That sort of thing. Um, Growing up, from a very young age, I was out doing mechanics, and with my granddad when he worked as a lorry driver and all these things. My uncle who works as a mechanic and caravan repairman. My granddad who's done all sorts of things. It's good to do these things. It develops a sensible work ethic, especially coming from a working class family. I've said this before. I think I said it in my video where I spoke about my granddad and what he's like and his importance to me. But it's the kind of proletarian English ethic is your work defines you. If you aren't working and work means basically the support of your family and the support of yourself and your dignity. Without that, you're nothing, basically. Without some craft, a skill, a trade, your life is meaningless, ultimately. But that's what it gets down to. That's where value in life really comes from. What that can allow and facilitate. And, it gets to the point where a man is skilled, confident, secure in his physical abilities. And again, I'm speaking of the working class here. I'm not speaking of kind of aristocracy or anything. Just to keep that in mind. But this is it's a very important facet of the working class mentality as I know it. My family aren't doll seekers or scroungers or anything of the like. They are very, very conservative working class Englishmen and women. There's not a hint of kind of new labour, kind of give me my Sky Sports, and Heineken and all the rest of it. As I kind of rot away working this dead end job I don't like. It's nothing like that. Not that kind of working class. Mechanics, DIY, lorry driving, working with engines and machinery, building, that sort of thing. Good stuff, gritty stuff. The sort of reason why I have calluses on my hands, and not just through drumming. The sort of stuff. It's about self-reliance. That sort of thing is a microcosm of the idea of self-reliance and of stability, temporally. More on that in a second. The second point was that not a lot of people are doing these things. Wait, fuck, I can't even remember what my points were now. There's trouble with doing this without any notes or a script or anything. The first, let's restate this. First point is that these things are important because it's a microcosm of self-sufficiency. There aren't enough young people doing these things. There are too many young people in university and college. Not enough people in the trades working. In places there isn't enough work to go around. That's fair enough. So you all have to have a fucking middle class. It's just inevitably just due to the sort of work which it is in some places. But yeah, there should be a lot more people going into trades, going into the hand stuff. Uh, it's much more important, I think, for young people to do that than to sit around doing a degree, um, and then having to pay off student debt for fucking 10 years. Not to say there aren't people who should be in university. They absolutely should be. Uh, I'm not making any egalitarian arguments here. I'm merely saying that at the end of the day, there is a huge oversaturation of people going into kind of technical fields. There isn't enough skilled labour. Obviously, we're seeing things kind of change now through automation and things like that. That's a bastard. And obviously, immigration exists to fucking replace the underclass, basically, as what's happened with New Labour in England. What they wanted to do, replace the underclass with a voting bloc of non-whites. What a bunch of bastards! depriving the young of their first job opportunities. You know, shit like going around cleaning people's windows for £5. You know, that sort of thing. But it's this sort of physical work installs a sense of self sustainability, skills. You know, I know young people who cannot change a light bulb, and that's a stereotype and a cliche to say that, but it's true. If you ask you to change that light bulb up there, they wouldn't know where to begin. They would probably take the light cover off, and they wouldn't know what to do with the light bulb. They'd probably worry about it being electrified or something. And then you'd promptly hit them in the face and fucking do it yourself. So, but this sort of thing, you're a pampered bourgeois kind of mentality among young people who really aren't that important. They are just pros like everyone else. But they've kind of been conditioned socially to go outside of that, where they don't belong. It's interesting when you... that sounds very snobbish. I know. Hopefully I'm not projecting. That wasn't a Freudian slip. Might have been. But people who are just completely useless wouldn't know how to do any DIY basic stuff. Painting, using proper paint, the right paint, repairing brickwork, doing a bit of tiling, these sorts of things. It's just so fucking easy. And yet a lot of people they'd have to pay someone else to do that, which is just nonsense. You should be able to do it yourself. Again, one of the strangest things about our age that we're living in is the fact that it's very horizontal and very levelling and very egalitarian and very on the low brow. But it doesn't seem to facilitate or include this low browness, the kind of the tradesman, the working man, in the sense of a skilled labourer. Because I think in a way that's a craft, isn't it? It's a skill set which has been acquired to pursue particular ends, to create things externally. Energy is expended outwards onto something else that is built and maintained. A house, for example, or like we're doing a patio and then a summer house we're going to be building. That's sort of just that act is a microcosm of something very positive, something very healthy and creative. It's the act of creation, isn't it? It's the act of something beyond the self and one imposing one's will upon it. You know what I mean? It's something. There's a kind of poetry to it. There's a kind of satisfaction. There's a kind of symmetry to it. There's a kind of clarity to what that is symbolically. And thus, in the modern age, you have the opposite. You have droves of third worlders kind of begrudgingly doing all these jobs for money, and only money, whilst the natives kind of get plump and fat from their kind of middle class lifestyles, not doing anything for themselves. it reminds me, one of the interesting things about the working class mentality as I know it is the disdain for the employer, for the bourgeois. Uh, Not because they are wealthy, but because you often see a propensity, especially with self-made rich people, to be extremely wasteful and extremely arrogant, wasting opportunity, money and freedom, and what they do with it? They get drunk and go on holiday. This, and that's, hopefully this video won't be seen by anyone important. But one of the things my granddad has a problem with his boss, really. He doesn't really have problems with his boss, but some things which irritate him a bit are just how silly it can be, and the frivolous things he spends his money on, and they're just the gimmicks, and things which have no importance or significance. Just silly wastes of money. Obviously, this relates to my grandfather being born after the World War. Wait, was it during or after? I think it was during, actually. And growing up with rationing, and growing up in a household of, I think, 7 kids. I think 7 children, in a lower working class estate in North London in the 50s and 60s. I mean, it was difficult living like that. It was, it's not some little lap of luxury. So you have to be resourceful to get by and have a easy enough life. You can't waste things. Wastefulness is something which is despised by the working class, as I know it. And I think that's a very positive trait, to be disdainful of wastefulness. Because we live in an age of quantity. We live in an age of massness. And we often take things for granted. And we oughtn't. Going on 12 minutes. Wondering what else can I say about this topic. Not a lot, at the end of the day. But I think people will fill in the gaps that I've left. And again, I took the other video down. I can't remember how many views I had. I had a couple of hundred. But those people, sorry, all the comments you guys left, they have been showered. So apologies. Yeah, my wells run dry. I'll leave it at that. Thank you for listening.